All right, welcome to Frontline. 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. President Trump just wrapping up his meeting with Zoran Mamdani, and man, was that interesting. We're going to have a lot to say on this in just a minute. Also, Congresswoman Sheila McCormick addressing her FEMA fraud charges, suggesting it's being targeting for, wait for it, because she's black.
If this is what Congress is becoming, where they're always trying to intimidate you, scare tactics, especially attacking minorities, black and brown people, then we're going to have to keep fighting for the district.
Okay, not to be outdone, though, by Jasmine Crockett also playing the race card in her defense of Stacey Plaskett.
So the idea or the audacity to decide that you want to strip a black woman of her committee assignment because she was texting with Epstein.
Okay. Sure, if Plaskett were white, we'd have, no problem with her texting a pedo. Get lost. And Congressman Jim Jordan has found out that 2 years worth of his phone records were subpoenaed by Biden's DOJ. Jordan is now asking for information from the banks regarding Jack Smith's far-reaching probes into President Trump. But first, well, I would say that was pretty unexpected. I was kind of expecting like almost a fight in the Oval Office. But anyway, let's do this. On my bingo card, the Ugandan socialist immigrant standing next to the president. Friend, from the tone of the Oval Office, you would have thought these guys were like longtime buddies.
But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am. I will say there's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, like, what changed from this?
I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in.
Just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor.
I will treat his threats as they deserve to be treated, which are the words of a president and not necessarily the law of the land.
We're going to have a lot of fun with him, watching him, because he has to come right to this building to get his money. And don't worry, he's not going to run away with anything. I think he's frankly, I've heard he's a total nut job.
I mean, okay, politics, I guess. But look, I don't think this actually hurts Trump at all. If anything, it helps him because I know he's still going to send ICE in there. All right. But Mamdani, his base ain't not going to like this. They wanted him to go in there, fisticuffs, resist mantra. Hey, look, just watch. I bet there's going to be a ton of fallout from his, like, the Democrat Socialists of America hardcore base, especially when he sat silent when our own Mike Carter actually asked him this.
You've threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out. And I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, we want to get them out.
And Mamdani didn't say a word. He did address the socialist resolution that passed the House today as he landed in D.C.
I have to be honest with you, I focused very little on resolutions. Frankly, I've been focusing.
Socialism.
I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand.
Yeah, he's right about that. Resolutions don't actually do anything. They voted today to denounce the horrors of socialism. Wow. Groundbreaking, guys. I mean, this is what you get paid $174,000 a year for. Oh, hey, look, we voted to say bad things are bad. Again, this is why people hate politicians in D.C. You guys voted on something totally meaningless right before you left D.C. for a week to go home for all of next week for Thanksgiving. The final vote was 285 to 98, with 2 voting present. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but this seems an awful lot short of the 435 total votes. So I guess 50 congressmen just were like, I'm going to take off early for my already week-long vacation. Whatever. But seriously, 98 Democrats voted against this. They voted against condemning the horrors of socialism. I mean, really? Guys, this is a layup. This just goes to show you how bad our school curriculum is. Or maybe it could be that the people behind the curriculum are the actual socialists. They don't teach it because it would turn people off to socialism pretty quick. I mean, never in the history of ever has socialism worked. And beyond the fact that there are approximately, give or take, and I'm just rounding to the nearest decimal here, 0 people fleeing capitalist countries in makeshift boats, wagons, or train cars for socialist ones. And since we poured billions into the Department of Education, that didn't add up to this lesson plan. Let's just recap what 98 Democrats refused to condemn. The countries that did socialism, which always leads to a parallel with communism, who promise everything and all this free stuff, then they never get. They stacked more bodies than both world wars multiplied. Not to mention, got the people who scream how bad the rich are, it makes them actually super rich in the process. Now, so when I say I don't like socialism and it ain't that good, we're talking about hundreds of millions dead in 100 years. You have Mao, okay, starving 40 to 50 million of his own farmers because some 5-year sunshine plan sounded real good on paper. He was the founder of the People's Republic of China who developed Maoism. Now, that's the Chinese adaptation of Marxism, and those great policies eventually led to that great leap forward famine. Stalin shot, starved, or froze another 20 million people in prisons in Ukraine. This doesn't include the tens of millions of other people that died in labor camps or from disease because, free healthcare, right? Not to mention his quest for genetic cleansing. Pol Pot made Cambodia into basically a giant graveyard. He killed a quarter of his own population, ruling the communist state through Kampuchea, policies heavily influenced by Mao and Stalin. Socialism. That's what the Democrats voted against condemning today, by the way. The Kim Jong-il and Un team in North Korea at night. In North Korea, it's actually dead silent. You want to know why? Because people ate all the crickets because they're starving in socialism that the Democrats didn't vote to condemn today. And look, by the way, they will shoot you in the back if you try to flee North Korea. And on top of that, he also outlawed suicide if you can't take it anymore. And the punishment for that is hard labor or even the death penalty. Not easily, though. I mean, that really makes people want to move there. But don't worry, Pyongyang has nice statues. Let's also not forget Vietnam, Ethiopia, pretty much all of Eastern Europe at one point or another. And 98 Democrats refused to say that all that was a bad thing? I mean, word, I guess. Socialism in the last 100 years has killed close to the current population of the United States of America. But the pitch from AOC or whatever, any other dolt voted no today, they always say, oh, that wasn't real socialism. Yeah, it was. I mean, it definitely was. And democratic socialism, that's just socialism that you vote for. Once you're in it, it's the same end result. But what's even funnier, actually, I guess not funny, but it's pretty much scary, that Congress already did almost this identical thing in 2023, the condemnation of socialism. That passed 328 to 86 with 14 voting present, saying that Congress denounces socialism in all its form and opposes the implementation of socialist policies in the United States of America. A lot of good it did then. We just elected a Muslim socialist as mayor of the largest city in the country that just met with the president today. I got an idea. Stop with symbology. Is it symbolism from Boondock Saints, if you didn't get that? Instead of grandstanding with those kind of vote tallies, Congress could actually initiate a constitutional amendment outlawing socialism. I mean, they have the votes right now, presuming they all would vote the same way, rather than just for a sternly worded letter. Maybe just clearly define it, pass it, build in penalties of, I don't know, deportation to a socialist nation for anyone who tries to implement it. I bet you could get 2/3 of the states to sign on to that one pretty quick. That might actually make it worth paying the salaries that we pay out every month for these people in Congress. But I bet they won't. That'd be too consequential. You remember the days when we had votes on real things and we threw communists in jail? We gotta bring that back. Comedians Tyler Fischer and Ross Bennett. All right, dude, Ross, good to have you back, brother.
Thanks, man.
Let's just throw some commies in jail.
Yeah, or me and Tyler are going to go get a burqa and move into New York City. Give us.
Every time, man. This is the thing. They give free stuff or they promise free stuff and then they can't deliver on this. Tyler, I look at this whole thing, though, is Congress passes a resolution, and it's basically like a sternly worded letter from the UN that means absolutely nothing.
Well, first of all, Ross, you need to change your accent if you're. I have a show in New York next week. I'm just finishing call to prayer. You're actually interrupting. But, yeah, it's who would have thought? You've got Rachel Maddow going to Dick Cheney's funeral. You got Trump, basically making out with Mamdani. I wish he went harder, Where's the nicknames, right? We got Mum Dummy. We call him Mum Dummy. He's a dummy, right? He's going to ruin the place. We agree on one thing, that ugly women need the headscarf, right? If you're a 6 and below, you got to wrap it up. And we agree on that strongly, right? I don't know. I was disappointed with it.
Yeah, but Ross, that was the other thing with me, is I was like, I expected this to be an all-out, verbal brawl between these two. I was thinking,
I mean, when the reporter said, so do you still think he's a fascist? And then Trump answered for him and goes, you don't have to answer. The answer is yes. And then he patted him on the back. I'm like, what am I watching?
Yeah, actually, we have that. Play that real quick.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say
okay.
yes.
Okay.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
I mean, Tyler, you would have thought they were longtime buddies.
Yeah, exactly. I was shocked. I thought I thought it was going to be like an SNL sketch, and now SNL is going to be able to clean up on that. But it was a real failure, right? Really sad. Really sad.
Yeah. Ross, this whole thing happens, though, and meanwhile, it's pretty clear. I think this helps Trump in a way because nobody believes he's not going to send in ICE because he's been doing it everywhere anyway. But Mamdani's really screwed. But while all this is going on, the DNC is having the darndest time trying to raise money because every time they elect one of these crazies, the base leaves them, or the middle leaves them, and the base doesn't have any money because they all work at Starbucks. So they just took out a $15 million loan at the DNC in October. And I'm like, who guaranteed that loan?
Yeah, I know who guaranteed it. All the people that helped fund all the riots in 2022 and all the other times. In 2020, it's we all know now the cat's out of the bag. They rob everybody blind. They used our taxpayers to prop up their own side, and then they implement stuff that we would never vote for if we knew what was going on. But all of us are too busy trying to get out of debt to pay attention to anything. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but this, Tyler, used to be the party of the elites. George Clooney standing up there telling you how great he was and raising hundreds of millions of dollars. And the RNC flush with cash right now. I mean, we're talking yacht-style money. However, the Democrats can't get a penny in the door.
Well, yeah. Well, Mamdani's doing all these fundraisers. Day one, now every day he's asking for money to pay for his transition. He basically said, we're going to give everything to you for free, but first we have to fundraise. It's like I have comedy shows tonight. It's like if I said, guys, the show's free, but if you could just go to tylerfischer.com and donate $25, then you get the ticket for free, which would have been $25. And everyone's just half, I'm not going to say it, but you know what word to use.
It is crazy to me that this is the type of arguments and debates we're having today. I'm telling you, look, I love Donald Trump, and the fact that he went up there and he kind of put Mamdani on his back heels is funny to me. Tyler, Ross, we appreciate it very much. All right.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, KJP is so unpopular that even college kids are sounding off on the former Biden mouthpiece. We're going to have that later in the show. But first, reporters harassed for doing their jobs. No, not a communist country. This is Dearborn, Michigan that we've been warning you about. And your tax dollars are flowing through a bunch of places to a terror group in Somalia. Via Minnesota. Shocking new report. You won't miss that.
From the moment Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, Newsmax was there.
We have some major breaking news. Israel launches strikes, preemptive strikes, almost 4 in the morning.
Israel has decided enough's enough.
What happened tonight was inevitable.
Something just caught my attention it sounds like afterburners overhead.
Reporting multiple explosions across the capital, Tehran.
I'm in a shelter now. There's 6 of us.
Benjamin Netanyahu has come out to make a statement.
Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Whenever the biggest news breaks, Newsmax is there for you because we're real news for real people.
Your parents have given you some amazing gifts. Celebrate the ones you inherited with Ancestry DNA. Explore the detailed family roots, cultures, and traits that shaped who you are today for only $34.
Hello, this is Franklin Graham. This Thanksgiving, what are you thankful for? You're thankful for family, your friends. How about God? That's right. Are you thankful for God? You see, God made you. He created you. He loves you. And you say, but Franklin, my life is in such a mess. I'm not sure I'm thankful for my life. Well, that's why God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to save us from this mess of sin that we live in. You see, that's right. God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to this earth to take your sins. He died and shed his blood on a cross for our sins, but on the third day, God raised him to life. He's not dead. He's alive. And he'll come into your heart right now if you invite him. Just pray this prayer with me. Just say, God, I'm a sinner. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I want to invite Jesus to come into my heart, to take control of my life. I want to surrender my life to him. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. If you prayed that prayer, call that number that's on the screen.
All right, last night we scratched the surface on a massive fraud ring that's plaguing Minnesota due to corruption of its Somali population. I mean, who saw that coming? Noting that millions of taxpayer dollars, some of which have been kicked back to the states by the federal government, have ended up in the hands of a terrorist group, Al-Shabaab, which that's the group declared a terror group by the UK, us, the UAE, a couple other people, using daycare and autism centers to claim Medicaid and then funnel the money back to genocide in Somalia. I mean, no biggie, right? Paying more than $21 million in claims in 2021, soaring to $104 million last year, $61 million in the first 6 months of this year. There's also a nonprofit, it's called Feeding Our Future, that was founded in 2016 to sponsor daycares and after-school programs. Sounds great on paper. In 2019, the program received a little more than $3 million in federal funds. That's our tax dollars, by the way. 2021, that number was close to $200 million. And when Minnesota officials raised concern about the nonprofit's expansion, the group alleged racial discrimination. And a similar story has taken place in Michigan, where Muslim town leaders are refusing to assimilate, literally saying it outright, and where locals are just harassing and attacking even reporters, seemingly with little accountability.
Officer, why are they able to make threats unfettered? Why do they have total impunity out here? They've attacked me, they pepper sprayed me, nothing has happened. They punched Jake in the face, they sprayed Jake. They have total impunity.
This is the best police department here. In the state of Michigan, nobody beats Dearborn police.
The religion of peace. Ryan Thorpe is an investigative reporter who just uncovered the massive fraud amongst Minnesota's Somali population, and reporter Carl Higbie, who was just in Dearborn, Michigan in that video where he was relentlessly harassed for pretty much doing his job. Rob, I'll go to you first on this one. Ryan, sorry. There was this incredible report that you guys put out. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars being funneled to a Somali terror group through daycare and autism?
Yeah, it's safe to say that the state of Minnesota is drowning in fraud. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota indicates that, the total figure here runs to billions of dollars. There are entire government programs where fraudulent claims outstrip legitimate ones. The large-scale fraud rings that have been exposed to date have been heavily concentrated in the state's Somali community, and as a part of our investigation at City Journal, we confirmed with counterterrorism and law enforcement sources that some of these stolen American tax dollars are being sent abroad to the tune of millions of dollars and ending up in the hands of the jihadi terror group Al-Shabaab.
I love this. And then we send the military over there to patrol those waterways from Somali pirates, and so it's basically my tax dollars fighting my tax dollars, and I'm really happy about that. Cam, this week you spoke at the Dearborn City Council about what you witnessed. I want everyone to see this. Roll it.
I shouldn't feel like a dhimmi in my country. That's what I feel like in Dearborn, Michigan. It doesn't feel like home. I feel like a dhimmi, a second-class citizen, which is what Christians are in the majority of Muslim countries. Dhimmis, second-class citizens. And the policing in this city, that's exactly what happens. And I know rank and file officers in pretty much every city usually want to take care of these problems. You're the one giving the orders, Mr. Mayor. These guys definitely want to do something about them. They're business. Look at them. These guys are all business. Your orders. I'm done.
You also called for ICE to come in.
Yeah. I actually warned the police officers, like, hey, nobody in your community wants the National Guard to come here, but if you don't enforce the laws of this country, of this state, of this city, and arrest people who are assaulting journalists, protesters, etc., peaceful protesters, by the way, nobody laid a hand on anybody except the counter-protesters. Like, Trump's going to send the National Guard in here, and there's not going to be anything you can do about it. And the worst part is you're going to be the one at fault. By the way, when I was giving that speech and I called out the mayor, he was grinning at me. And it's the same grin that the police officers gave me after I got pepper sprayed down there. And I told them who pepper sprayed me, asked them to make an arrest or at least detain the person, asked to file a report, and they refused. I found the officer who told me he couldn't leave his post in the parking lot taking a personal call 5 minutes later.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. It almost sounds like a civil rights case for Hermit Dillon at the Justice Department. We'll see what happens there. Ryan, in your report, you also make note of the amount of money Somalians receive each year from foreign remittances. 40% of Somali households get remittances to a tune of nearly $2 billion. You also quote Glenn Kearns, who spent 14 years on a federal joint terrorism task force looking into these funds that were funneled to al-Qaeda, an affiliate of al-Shabaab. Kearns saying, quote, I worked on it for 5 years. And we had sources going into the Hawalas and to send money and went down to Minnesota and pulled the... Look, this has gone on for 14 years and we're still dealing with it?
I mean, what's very clear to me is that Democratic state officials in Minnesota have largely turned a blind eye to this issue. It is not new. It has certainly gotten much worse in recent years, but this is a long-standing problem in the state. Alarm bells should have been ringing, but I think what we've seen is a progressive political establishment that is, afraid to be seen as being politically incorrect, and also, quite frankly, afraid of potentially alienating the Somali community, which is a sizable voting base in that state now, and has also forged quite strong political connections.
Yeah, and watch this, Cam, about 20 seconds here. You know, we've been warning people about Dearborn, and people weren't listening until folks like you went in there.
Yeah, it's really bad. Dearborn is rotten to its core. The police force chooses not to enforce laws against its own people. They are very selective on how they enforce laws, what they do, and stuff like that. So it is absolutely rotten to its core into the direction of the mayor.
That's the same Dearborn police officer or office that wanted to put an Arabic slogan on their police badge until they were told.
You know, Nick Shirley actually interviewed somebody who came up, rolled up in his truck, and was being very aggressive towards people. They got out of their truck and started yelling at people. And Nick Shirley asked him, what's the deal? And he said, I had my gun ready. I was going to kill them, but then I saw the police.
Wow. That's wild. All right, well, Ryan Thorpe, Cam Higbie, we appreciate it. All right, coming up, a new poll showing that liberals have found a way to ruin the American dream for young generations. Once again, we got all that, our Culture Clash.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
There's nothing worse than losing your dog before their time. So why do so many dog foods contain awful things a human would never eat? To save his pets, world-famous veterinarian Dr. Marty knew he had to change what was in their bowl.
That's why I created Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, my breakthrough formula that's changed everything about dog food.
Nature's Blend contains nothing but all-natural ingredients, designed to help dogs with everything from digestive issues to itching and paw licking, even moving around better. And that's because Nature's Blend is freeze-dried. So instead of destroying the nutrients with high heat, we gently preserve them, and you'll see the difference in your dog.
Take it from a veterinarian with over 50 years of experience saving dogs' lives. I have never seen a food make this much impact on a dog's health.
Such a huge difference in her health. More energy, more playful, no more pooping issues. He's healthier, he looks better.
Dr. Marty has thousands of 5-star reviews. And for a limited time, get up to 54% off Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, plus a free gift with our special TV offer. Call or go to drmartypets.com/TV. That's drmartypets.com/TV.
A lot of accidents happen up on ladders, especially this time of the year, trying to clean out clogged gutters. You don't want to be next. That's why homeowners choose Leaf Guard, the only seamless one-piece leaf shedding and rainwater management system with a clog-free guarantee. Remember, Leaf Guard's attached to the fascia using our patented hanger system with screws, not nails. We guarantee it's not coming down. And if you call during this program, you can take advantage of our double savings sale. We're going to double your savings to 20% off a complete Leaf Guard system, double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase, and double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with your in-home estimate. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with Leaf Guard purchase. Call 1-800-541-1274. That's 1-800-541-1274.
Yeah, with Leaf Guard, I haven't had any clogs at all. And I used to a lot. So I'm looking forward to many more years with my Leaf Guard system.
And with Leaf Guard's exclusive Big Mouth, the extra large opening and oversized downspouts can handle up to 32 inches of rainfall an hour. And Leaf Guard has a lifetime transferable warranty. Remember, we can bring our factory on wheels right to your house and in most cases install Leaf Guard in less than a day. Call now during this program and take advantage of our double savings sale. Double your savings to 20% off a complete Leaf Guard system. Double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase and double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with estimate. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with Leaf Guard purchase. Leaf Guard, get it today, protect it for life. Call 1-800-541-1274. That's 1-800-541-1274.
This holiday, set the table with the best. From orchard-picked pears to curated gourmet gifts, Harry & David brings a legacy of flavor to every celebration. Make it a hand-picked holiday with Harry & David.
A new study shows that young women are now less likely than young men to say, I hope to get married someday. According to a new data from Pew Research Center, 12th graders in general are less likely to say that they want to get married someday. I mean, they're still in 12th grade, so like 17 years old, but they used to say much more in the past. Over the same 30-year period, the share of boys saying they want to get married eventually was virtually unchanged, but the share of young girls dropped by 22%. Guess it turns out when you parade around the idea that you don't need a man, or we need to abolish gender norms and tell every white man that they're the worst thing that's ever happened to society, young girls start to believe it. Also, we basically strip testosterone from most men out there. Good job, Libs. Mary Rooke, Daily Caller columnist and analyst writer, and Rob Bluey, the president of executive editor at the Daily Signal. All right, so Mary, when I look at this, I think to myself, it's like, the average testosterone of a 20-year-old now is the same as a 70-year-old 30 years ago. Is that any wonder that maybe women also aren't attracted to that?
Yeah, and the fact that, probably the climbing rates of birth control affecting the way women see men. And, there's so many things that go into this. It makes me so sad. I write about this for my newsletter a lot, about how women need to find strong men and all those kinds of things. But on the opposite view of that, how are men going to find women if none of them are even interested in getting married anymore? It's, there's a lot of things that go into it. It's obviously like the feminist wave that has come through and told women that they need to be girl bosses and they need to do all of these things outside of traditional marriage and outside of the things that make them happy. Even though we see the polling, the happiest people in America are married women and men. So when you look at that, but then you also take into account that owning a home, raising children is more expensive now than it ever has been. It's like that doom cycle that you get in and you see, like, why is the future even positive anymore for me?
Well, Rob, that's the other thing too, is, and I'm going to get to home ownership in a sec, but liberal white women are like the most miserable class of women. I mean, there's multiple surveys out there that show that they basically just hate themselves and everyone else. And this might be the end result of it. They're aborting themselves out of existence. And on top of that, we're not producing enough people to sustain a country.
Carl, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is an existential threat to the American dream in our country, because if we are not even producing at replacement level, and we know that those numbers have been declining, it poses a serious challenge. It's one of the reasons why I think it's important for conservatives and Christians to double down and make sure that family formation is centerpiece in terms of one of the things that they're talking about. And to reference some of those earlier polls that you talked about, when you look particularly at how this breaks down by party, you're absolutely correct. When liberal women were asked, young women were asked, they put marriage and having kids at the bottom of the list. I want to say it was like 14th or 15th. Now that is a stark comparison to Trump and conservatives who put it near the top of the list. So, I mean, there is hope, but it's certainly
Not
a troubling sign of the years ahead.
Yeah. All right. Mary, here's another one. The reason future generations, as you mentioned, they're not buying homes, okay? But the reason housing is so unaffordable is, well, Hakeem Jeffries had to roll it.
There's a direct connection between the climate crisis, which continues to grow more urgent by the day, and the rise of extreme weather events that threaten the health, the safety, and the well-being of the American people, and a direct connection between the rise of extreme weather events and the homeowners insurance crisis. It's incredibly important that we deal with the climate crisis, because the absence of doing it causes life in America to just continue to become more unaffordable.
What was that word salad?
It's their favorite new topic because racism has been beaten to death and all of these, special interests have been beaten to death. So they thought they'd resurrect climate change. And I was actually writing this piece today about, Trump's big push to bring in all of these offshore leasing. And one of the things that kept coming up was they're perfectly fine with windmills, even though it's killing the wells and it's killing birds and it's killing the environment because it's supposed to be, so-called green energy and all of that stuff. When in reality, they don't really care about this stuff. Climate change isn't affecting housing prices. Climate change isn't affecting children being able to buy homes. You know what is, though? Affordability. And all of the, there's a real issue behind here, and their lack of care to the people who are actually suffering is disgusting when he talks about climate change. And I think it's really hilarious that he will bring up things like home ownership being a part of the American dream, when for the last 10 years, all Democrats have done is told us the American dream isn't real and attaining it isn't something that we should be looking for, and everyone should become renters.
Right.
But now all of a sudden home
Black
ownership
Rock.
is important to them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Rob, I can't even believe this is a real story. Michael English is a Democrat running for the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island. Okay, but the only problem is he's a convicted child molester and came out acknowledging it's like, oh, I made immature decisions that led to my arrest in 1990. Okay, this guy. The article reads that he was 26 years old and had a relationship with a 13-year-old girl. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's say he gets elected. What happens when there's a Board of Ed meeting he's got to go speak at and he's not allowed to go within 200 feet of a school?
Carl, this one, I did a double take when I saw this story because I just couldn't believe it. Now, look, I believe in redemption, and obviously people change, but putting them in charge of a city and electing them mayor, that seems maybe a bridge too far. I'm just not sure that that makes a whole lot of sense for the citizens and residents of Providence, Rhode Island to do. But it just goes to show that those on the left are willing to just turn a blind eye to these individuals, and as long as they are promoting an agenda that they agree with, I think that they would put anybody in a position of power.
Mary, I got about 30 seconds for you here. This is over in my home state of Connecticut. The thing the Dems claim never happened just happened again. Yeah. A Democrat in Bridgeport, Connecticut, city council member Alfredo Castillo, was arrested for the 4th time on charges related to absentee ballot fraud.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this is that every red-blooded American knows this happens. It happens rampant. It happens all over the country. And yet we are told constantly to sit down, shut up, close our eyes, and not pay attention. And then when these things do happen, and they happen to make it outside of, this small little bubble of whatever a city is and becomes a national story, the Democrats will scream at the top of their lungs and tell us, oh, this is just such an isolated case. There's only a few of these. It doesn't really happen. Everyone just kind of close your eyes. But we all saw it. We all know what's going on, and it's disgusting. And if anybody really wants to take a stand, I think that Americans will back that movement.
Yeah, 100%. Mary, Robert, we appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, will Zelensky accept President Trump's peace plan, or will he keep complaining about it and killing his own people, saying that terms are too tough? Those details next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning, and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports, and your day becomes better, and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and, you know, it's a good life. I'm Randy, and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
The Wall Street Journal said silver could be the trade of a decade.
Eric Sprott said $250 to $500 an ounce is entirely possible.
Gold recently surpassed its inflation-adjusted all-time high. Silver's inflation-adjusted all-time high is $209 an ounce.
And silver went up 1,300% from 1974 to 1980. Silver's got a lot of room to run.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. See how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
When it comes to my daily heart health supplement, I've got 3 rules. It's got to be plant-based, it's got to be doctor recommended, and it's got to be Super Beets from Human.
Super Beets is the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support with clinically studied grapeseed extract for nearly 2 times more effective blood pressure support than diet and exercise alone.
Super Beets works. I swear by it, and I know you're going to love it too.
Find out how to get a free month with your first order at livehuman.com.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
Tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
We are Create. We designed the gold standard creatine monohydrate gummy, which can support daily energy levels, boost mental clarity, and build and retain muscle. Learn more at trycreate.co.
Ukraine has officially received from the American side a draft plan. We outlined the fundamental principles that matter to our people. We agreed to work on the plan's provisions in a way that would bring about a just end of the war. While Ukraine stands ready to engage in meaningful negotiations to end this war, including at the leaders' level, our red lines are clear and unwavering. Our land is not for sale.
Well, we're not buying. So that was Ukraine's deputy ambassador to the UN, who in a nutshell saying, you have to give us more of your money in order for us to win, and we need you to fund it indefinitely. I mean, it's like the same old, same old. How about no? I mean, what's the ROI for the American person that's living paycheck to paycheck right now that's funding this? What's the incentive to fund this fight 5,000 miles away if you're not even going to make sacrifices to get peace? Trump says he wants Ukraine to accept the peace deal devised by the White House and the Kremlin by Thanksgiving. Now, the peace deal then includes territorial concessions with areas of Ukraine that don't even want to be a part of Ukraine, cutting down the military, agreeing that they will never join NATO, which they've agreed to in the past, which is something that Putin's been consistent on for 20 years, along with a number of other small things. But it notes that if they accept this plan, they will receive reliable security guarantees. However, they had that with the Budapest Memorandum, and look at how that worked out. Now, Zelensky, of course, saying that this deal meant choosing between dignity and a key partner. It sounds like they really just want to keep fighting. And, okay, you want to do that? Fine, go ahead. You do it on your own. President Trump reacted today to Zelensky's hesitancy.
He doesn't like it?
It's unclear. He was sort of pretending.
He'll have to like it. And if he doesn't like it, then, they should just keep fighting, I guess,
Christian Whiton, former senior advisor in the Trump-Bush administrations, and Blaine Holt, former U.S. deputy military rep to NATO. All right, General, to you first. We've watched this from, day one when the war broke out. You and I have been talking about this, and I'm just tired of paying for it.
Absolutely. But you can't have the war that you had 3 years ago. Things change on the battlefield, and then the terms change. And unfortunately, Ukraine, while its soldiers have fought valiantly, are not in a good position. The second logistics hub fell tonight in Kupiansk. And President Zelensky, while he's resistant, he is making speeches to his people to prepare them to get ready that while they may not like the deal, the fighting will have to stop because they can have a worse situation than the one they have right now. If they get to keep Odessa the seaport, there can be a Ukraine in the future that has sovereignty. And as hard as it is a bitter pill to swallow, a lost war, we've got to stop the killing. There's over 2 million dead now.
Right. And look, we've had conquests and border changes since the beginning of mankind. I mean, that's what happens. Every animal in the animal kingdom changes territory based on force. But now Germany, Christian, is backing Ukraine. Their chancellor, Friedrich Merz, is tweeting, Ukraine can count on us together. And he's adding all these other people, Keir Starmer and all these other, they're reaffirming their support. My problem here is it like, okay, Euro leaders, you want to do this? Why don't you send your kids and why don't you send your troops? Because the second you do that, you're going to lose your office, pal.
Well, that's right. It's, how many reinforced brigades of words is he going to do? How many air wings of words? Because that's all the Europeans really have offered. They've put a tiny bit of money on the table, more than a tiny bit, I'll be fair to them. But Germany in particular, when this war started, said they were going to spend $100 billion beefing up their own security and supporting Ukraine. That never materialized. In the last year, they had another round of imagination funding, $500 billion, euros, so a little bit more in dollars. But that means goes on, can be spent on roads and things like that. And they think this is going to reindustrialize Germany, which incidentally is not going to happen since they've cranked up the price of energy with their green dream. So Europe is a lot of talk. And we have to also, I think, reevaluate some of these alliances. This is not the first time Britain has sort of frog marched us verbally into a conflict or to the verge of conflict. They did it in Libya. Supposedly our best allies in the world and the most successful alliance in the world, might need a new look.
Yeah, that we bailed out in World War II because they were losing ships 8-to-1 ratio to the German U-boats. But General, I look at this, and let's bring NATO into this, okay? How about NATO outside of America funds this? They're already paying, as you can see there, more in the defense funding. How about we just step out, or just an idea, we could do what we promised we were going to do after the Cold War, which was not expand NATO any further east, leave Ukraine out of it, and say, all right, that's good.
Exactly. And that's what's going to happen next is we're going to reevaluate the NATO mission altogether. The Europeans are rolling up freedom and liberties and Western values left and right across the board. You get locked up for saying something untoward on a tweet in France or in the UK right now. Look, the European leaders haven't followed President Trump's leadership because they don't want to be the bag holders for deindustrializing Europe, having this climate nonsense, and they're cake and eating it too, in this fantasy idea that they're going to conquest 75 trillion in Russia. It's dangerous, and President Trump is insisting that we stop this now.
Christian, in your short prediction here, how does this go? Do you think they bend the knee? Do you think they stop fighting, or do you think they just keep going?
I think they're going to go a little while longer until President Trump does what he implied he's going to do. It's not just money that we can withhold because we've sort of cut back on that, but in particular targeting intelligence. And the Russians are convinced, I don't know if it's true or not, but that is really what's enabled the Ukrainians to hold out as well as they have in this war of attrition with Russia. So if we start pulling back on that, that would probably be the pressure we need to apply to have this admittedly unappealing but necessary peace.
I think you're right. Christian, Blaine, great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, keeping your drinks cold without having to deal with ice. Sign me up. We got Made in America next. It's awesome.
I am a coach and an alum of Girls on the Run. Kids today carry a lot of stress, from school pressure to social isolation to overuse of devices. We create a space where girls can connect, build confidence, and learn skills like managing emotions, setting goals, and speaking up. Each child's experience is different, and families need support. I'm proud to be part of a comprehensive solution to youth mental health. Get involved today at EmpowerOurFutureCoalition.com.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about YRefi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in YRefi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know that you can invest from 1 to 5 years and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest income or reinvest it, whatever you choose. When you invest in YRefi, your interest is calculated daily, you're paid monthly, and should you need your money back early, there is a liquidity feature. Would you like more information? All you have to do is call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com for complete details. And make sure you review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosure at your leisure. YRefi, investing in America's future.
Are you or a loved one a military veteran that has been diagnosed with mesothelioma? Do you have questions about getting the best treatment or paying medical bills? Have you received the proper care and compensation you deserve? Let our firm serve you with the same dedication you served your country. We are exclusively devoted to helping those with mesothelioma. Call now to get this free book, and we'll answer any question you have. We'll even visit you.
Call 800-555-8958 or go to mesobook.com.
Studies show testosterone levels are at an all-time low, and you can see it in the state of our society. Men need testosterone to be men. That's why the Patriots at Chalk.com developed a natural supplement blend to boost testosterone production. This holiday season only, get Chalk's most popular bundle at just $19.99 for your first month subscription. Cancel anytime, but we don't think you'll want to. Go to Chalk.com/BF, claim yours today.
Hey guys, Viagra is not your only option. Rose Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Sildenafil starts things off strong, and Tadalafil stays in your system for longer. More confidence, more control. Rose Sparks. Connect with a provider at ro.co/sparks.
All right, Made in America. We're highlighting the businesses that are manufactured here at home, because Made in America ain't just a label. It's how we're making America great again. One job, one product, one community at a time. And nothing inspires ingenuity like being a college kid drinking beer with your buddies and a trio of friends at Clemson University. Their inspiration was the warm beers that they were sharing.
You can put 6 packs of soda in here.
And that's where Kanga Coolers was born. Kanga Coolers acts like a giant koozie for an entire case of soda. So no need to lug a giant cooler around to your destination. Just slip it in the case of Kanga Cooler and enjoy cold drinks for up to 7 hours. The product was such a success that they secured a $100,000 investment from some people. They were on Shark Tank as well. And Logan LaMance is the founder and CEO of Kanga Coolers. Ryan Lubker?
Lubker, yes.
Lubker. All right. Brand director of Beer Deer, which I'm going to get to because that's pretty cool. All right, Logan. So you're like, man, hot beer sucks, so we're going to make a cooler.
Absolutely, yeah. So we all had expensive coolers that could keep our drinks cold for 3 weeks, but we would never use anything to keep our drinks cold for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. We just found ourselves going by the convenience store, grabbing a cold 24-pack and just drinking it as it got warm, because we were choosing convenience over cold. Mm-hmm. And we just had the right idea. What if we just supersize what you put on a can around the entire thing. We're already getting it cold. Why not just keep it cold for the whole time it's actually going to take you to drink it? So that's how we came up with this product. It's an iceless cooler. Slide a cold 12-pack in there. We have other sizes. As long as it's cold going in, it'll stay cold for up to 7 hours, no ice, and you're good to go.
I like it. And you were telling me earlier, you actually made a bulletproof one just for fun and gave it to a bunch of veterans.
Veterans Day special, limited run. We don't sell them, but we just wanted to have some fun with it, and it works too.
Well, and the crazy, and I'm going to get to your beer deer in a sec, but the craziest thing is you are actually a product of you started in America. It got so expensive to manufacture, you moved some of your production overseas, and now you're bringing it all back.
Yeah, we're exploring a lot of opportunities. So we started out making them in America from a test run standpoint, and we're in Greenville, South Carolina. I mean, this used to be one of the textile capitals of the world, but my entire life, I'm 29, my entire life, it's kind of been a shell of that, right? You see all these old factories that are now apartment complexes and breweries, and great breweries, and it's cool. But we really didn't have as many options locally as maybe a couple of decades ago. So we're at that inflection point where I think we have an opportunity to explore bringing some of this back and the capacity coming back. I think the first tangible step in that direction is Beer Deer and that product.
Yeah, man.
So
Yo, bring this thing up. Give me this thing. This is like the cool, look at this. This is the coolest thing. He shows me this in the green room, and it's literally like, I'm a taxidermy guy. So like I have a deer in my office here in New York, and people are like, dude, where do you come from? I'm like Carlton Milo Higbie IV from Greenwich, Connecticut. And I'm wearing cowboy boots with deer. But this is, you partnered with actual beer brands. Yes. And they just give you a bunch of boxes and you made it into a taxidermy deer?
Yeah, absolutely. It was an idea that started when I was a student in college, and I just got a bunch of empty beer cases and kind of cut them out and fashioned them into a three-dimensional deer head. And
Max arting.
Exactly.
So your
now we've
teachers were
expanded.
thrilled.
Yeah, they were. They thought that I had lost my mind when I walked in with a box of empty beer cases into the classroom. But now we've expanded. We have a whole line of different taxidermy animals. We have all sorts of different birds and fish and hunting animals. So we have a ton of different variety now. We work with some of the biggest American breweries as well. We're officially licensed.
Like beer Jumanji.
Yeah.
What animal can't he make?
Yeah, exactly. Out of beer.
Out of beer.
All right, man. Like, I feel like you guys are some ones I want to hang out with. Where do people go to check out more of this?
Yeah, kangacoolers.com to find these. They make awesome holiday gifts for someone that you don't know what to gift for. I mean, especially if they might like to have a few drinks, maybe sodas.
Wife.
Yeah, maybe a couple. But kangacoolers.com or at kangacoolers and
beerdeerusa.com.
Beer Deer USA. And you guys just linked up, and now you're one company. So
yeah, he's actually a part of the original brand ambassador team for Kanga, and now he's a part of the Kanga team full time. Kanga and Beer Deer merged together.
It's full circle. All right, man. Well, appreciate you guys coming on. Good luck with this.
Thank you.
All right. Well, before we go, we got more for you. Please, let's put an end to KJP speaking at events or at all. I promise you, nothing inspirational ever comes from her. So the next segment, we'll just be making fun of her. Next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Have you compared your Medicare plan recently? With eHealth, you can compare Medicare plans side by side for free. So we invited people to give eHealth a try and discover how easy it can be to find your Medicare match.
This is pretty amazing. I can go on a vacation with this money. I have quite a few prescriptions.
That's why people call us. We're going to compare plans, and I'm going to try to get you as much bang for your buck as possible.
That's great.
This one here covers all your prescriptions, your doctors as well.
Oh, wonderful.
I have a hard time with this.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for. Based on our conversation today, I would highly recommend this plan.
You're so helpful. You don't know.
I'm excited for you, sir. Again, my name is Cham. If you have any other questions, give me a ring.
Thank you very much. Oh my God, that was super easy.
See how your Medicare plan stacks up with the big changes for 2026. Just call this number or get started at ehealth.com. Compare plans that cover your doctors, prescriptions, pharmacy, and budget. And compare plans from the nation's top insurance companies. They pay us to help you. How much do you think you'll be able to save using eHealth?
At least $300 a month.
Would you say you found your Medicare match?
Yes, I did. What Sham did, she explained to me exactly what I needed to know.
Well, I have a surprise for you. Cham, come on out.
Oh my goodness.
It's a pleasure to meet you today, sir.
What does it feel like to be face to face?
You helped me out quite a bit.
call to meet your advisor. They're paid the same no matter which Medicare Advantage plan you choose. Ask them about eHealth Live Advice or get started on your own at eHealth.com. Either way, it's always a free service. See if you could get more for less with eHealth, like these folks did.
The savings are unbelievable.
I could see the costs side by side.
eHealth is wonderful. $1,200 savings in my pocket. I was really pleasantly surprised with that.
Call 1-800-708-0234 to compare Medicare plans in your area or visit eHealth.com.
eHealth, your Medicare matchmaker.
Afraid your roof won't make it through the winter? Roofmax can tune up and restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a replacement. Call now, and the tune-up portion is free with your Roofmax treatment.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonex nail gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonex, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. Nonex is made in the USA and so effective, it's money-back guaranteed. Lift out the fungus with Nonex. For clear, healthy-looking nails, use Nonex Fungal Nail Clarifying Gel. Buy Nonex at Amazon, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Create a daily workout. Whatever workout means for you. We are Create, the creatine gummy made from Creapure, the gold standard of creatine monohydrate. Learn more about Create at trycreate.co.
A peace plan for Gaza. For the plan to advance, Hamas must disarm. Instead,
tonight, terrifying images emerging from Gaza. Videos show Hamas-linked gunmen carrying out a public execution as they return to the streets.
Hamas on a rampage, executing Palestinians, bloody crackdown, spreading terror. For freedom, not terror, Hamas must go.
I think this book tour of KJP has probably gone on long enough. I mean, it shouldn't have started, but to save herself from more humiliation, she should probably just end it right now. She recently visited Swarthmore College, and boy, the students have a lot to say. This event was so bad that students took to the college newspaper to list their complaints about her. Here, just listen to her blabbering on nonsense at this event.
Millions of people out there, I mean, just look at the polling right now, especially when it comes to the Democratic Party, are not happy. It's not just me, Karine Jean-Pierre, sitting here by myself and saying this. There are millions of people who want to see more. And so if I can start that conversation, if I can get people to tap into this and really push and push and push, then maybe we can, hopefully all of us can do it together.
She's like unemployable, like not making any sense whatsoever. This one student explained the experience of the event. He said, the most generous way I can describe the entire event with Karine Jean-Pierre, including her initial discussion, subsequent Q&A, is extremely bizarre. Bob, this woman has been out there selling a book. She's now registered as an independent. What's her next path? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I have no idea. And just like we had no idea what she was doing as her time as press secretary or
right.
Now,
Now,
the
usually,
administration, what they were doing.
Usually these people go work for a think tank afterwards, but she ain't much of a think tank.
Well, I don't think that's possible. I don't think she can think like that.
No.
And generate any kind of value there, because we saw what happened with their administration. Wasn't too good, was it?
No, and you know, usually when you have a bad administration, you pick a better delivery person. So maybe it doesn't look as bad, but they picked her. I don't know.
Well, it all makes sense though, right?
Yeah, it does. But
went down in flames.
If you don't know, Bob has worse ADD than me, and I just gave him a clicky pen for the entire iteration of this show. Have a nice day, Bob.
All right.